Well, it's 25 minutes after 5 o'clock. Good to have you with us here on SA Tonight. I'm Gareth Edwards. It's been rather unusual this past 48 hours. We've all had electricity, no blackouts whatsoever. It's been a long time since we've been able to say that. So a rare reprieve from the blackouts. Eskom extending the suspension until tomorrow morning, Wednesday morning to be exact. The schedule will then rotate between stages 2 and 3 for the foreseeable future. Maybe just check your local app and see when you're going off. So South Africa's new power supply appointment is confident the country is not going to see any higher stages than those two anytime soon. It's quite a statement to make. It's the new minister in the presidency that's responsible for our electricity, Dr. Kgosientsho Ramokgopa, currently on a 2-week tour of South Africa, taking a look at the ailing power stations, visiting Kusile and Kendal in Mpumalanga. Along for that is my colleague Heidi Jokos, who's been on the road as well. So let's take a look then at how it's looking for this evening. Hello to you, Heidi, on the grounds of one of the power stations. Where are you and what has the minister been telling you? Because seemingly there's an argument that once we got into protest season with the EFF, magically we all had power. Or is that timing just coincidental?
No, the minister is going to tell me that it's not because of any planned protest action or shutdown that we are seeing some sort of reprieve when it comes to rolling blackouts. But just to answer your question, we were at Kusile Power Station this morning, a problematic one, which the minister will elaborate on, as well as Kendal Power Station, where we are right now. Thank you so much for your time, Minister. We do appreciate it. The question is, South Africans are trying to figure out what to do with all of this electricity, because we haven't had so much electricity for so long. Many are saying it's because of that national planned shutdown, but you'll tell me that's not the case. Things are actually starting to look a lot better.
Well, it's tragic that the energy deficit has been normalized, and when in fact we return to condition of normality, people find it very difficult to cope. Let me say the following, that we have experienced over the past few days that there's been a decline in demand as a result of people going on vacation. Of course, the peak is not necessarily your ordinary peak, and that's why demand is going down. And also we know that in the past few weeks, about 6 plants have really improve significantly, if you like, the energy availability factor, essentially the efficiency of the plant performance. And a combination of that has meant that we've got some degree of reprieve, and that's why we didn't have load shedding. But the issue is that the units are unreliable. At any given time, you can have unplanned maintenance. So you really want to ensure that you introduce some discipline in how you are going to bring plants out of operation, get them into planned maintenance, and when you return them, they are able to perform at the level that they are required. So the point I'm making is that there is no relationship between what had happened yesterday, the shutdown, and what is essentially happening in these plants. But it's a product of, if you like, the energy action plan that the president unveiled sometime last year. Like I said previously, I think the start of the effort to resolve load shedding doesn't start with the installation of the Minister of Electricity. It has been a sustained effort led by the Minister Pravin Gordhan, and also the board and the executive management and the plant managers at the 13 power station, including Quebec. So you can see that the results are coming to bear, and also the fact that now we're beginning to add additional momentum. And we have taken a view that let's understand the problem from a perspective of plant managers. And that's why we took a decision that we are going to visit each and every plant and spend, if you like, a significant amount of effort and our energies trying to understand how we are going to bring back the units into operation, those that are out, but also how to improve, if you like, the partial load losses, essentially making the plants more efficient. So I can tell you, when we went to Kriel, for an example, they tell us that once we are able to fix the cooling towers, and they tell us the amount of resources that are required to fix the cooling towers, they'll be able to ramp up, if you like, the energy availability factor. If we address the derating of the coal, essentially because of the quality of coal, now we're getting lower grade coal, and as a result of that, on 3 units we have reduced the number of megawatts output by 70 megawatts per unit. So essentially, if you address that, you get an additional 210 megawatts back. And then today, we're at what I call the problem child. The newest of our power plants, 6 units, only one is operational. And then we know now from the engagement that then there's a significant, if you like, modifications that are done on a section of the components that has been giving them significant problems, which is meant to ensure that the desulfurization, essentially reducing the amount of sulfur in the emissions so that we don't get to contaminate the environment. So the team has worked very hard on the modification, and also as a result of our failure to do those modifications, there was, if you like, a significant amount of pressure that was placed on the chimney, and that's why it led to its structural integrity. We know now that the Minister of Environment has given us exemptions. So as a result of that, we'll be able to retain 4 of the 5 units that are out of commission. The last one will come in on Christmas Eve. So essentially, there's 2,100 megawatts, and then the 5th of the last one of the 5 will come back in February. And now we are here in Kendal. Yes, 2023. And then now we are here in Kendal. They've shared with us what is the amount of megawatts that will come on stream by February of next year. They've taken to us through a number of actions that they are taking, whereas the issues about the power, the outage, if you like, readiness. So we are sufficiently convinced that there's an enormous amount of effort placed by plant managers. These are competent, patriotic and experienced individuals who are working with us to resolve this problem. So when I go out in the public domain, after we've visited all the 13 coal-powered power stations and also Quebec, we'll be able to say to the public, of course, we have engaged with DPE, Minister Godin, with the board and also the EXCO, who are aggregating these numbers. Remember the magic number, we are searching for these 6,000 megawatts. And I can tell you, as we move from one plant to the other, we are banking the megawatts. I know the timelines, and we'll be able to communicate to you once we have gone through a process of a robust interrogation, confirmation, so that everyone commits to those numbers when I go out in public. In fact, there's a layer of management at the plant level who have committed to those numbers.
So the magic number is 6,000 megawatts. When will we see the end of rolling blackouts?
Well, that's the point I'm making, that when I come back to you, remember that now I still have another 9 power stations. We'll come back to you. I mean, we really value this platform. This is the means for us to communicate to the general public. We owe it to them. The amount of grievance, discontent, very despondent, the trust deficit has waned over a period of time. People have lost jobs. The economy is on its knees. So it's important that we are able to address this. And that's why in the consideration of President Ramaphosa, you needed a Minister of Electricity to go down at the plant and a unit level. And that's why this is the attire. We are on at the coal face, both literally and figuratively, so that we are able to address this situation. I am more than confident. This is a message I want to convey to the people of this country. I am more than confident that first will reduce the regularity and intensity, and ultimately will resolve load shedding. We'll give them what the timelines look like, and hopefully we can get the economy going, get people into jobs, ensure that there's universal access, people have got water, and doctors are able to conduct emergency surgery, and the industries are able to operate, and then investments come back into the country, and the country reclaims its position as the most, it's a preeminent position as an unassailable leader on the continent from an economic point of view.
Okay, great. So, Minister, I want to ask you about the element of sabotage and foul play. We previously saw the previous CEO speaking heavily about serious, almost syndicates, coal syndicates, especially here in Mpumalanga. Have you been able to ascertain the severity of this, and is this impacting and probably exacerbating the rolling blackouts that we have?
Let me take you to our experience today. So we're at Kusile. I just shared with you that the issue was on a FGD plant, which is meant to address the desulfurization. So it's a design issue. And we're able to confirm that no, it has very little, nothing to do with the quality of coal, at least on the version of what the management has shared with us. And we came to understand as engineers how this complex ecosystem works. And we can confirm that, in fact, that's not the case. In this instance, we are here now, as I speak to you, in Kendal. They have shared with me the issues is about the emission levels. In some instances, we are exceeding, if you like, the legal emission level. So the only reason we're taking units out is to ensure that we reconfigure them, they are designed or retrofitted in a manner that we're reducing the emissions level. And that has nothing to do, at least on the version of management, with what is coming through. We are going to do other power stations. Of course, I'm going to hear other versions. And that does not suggest that there is no corruption. All I'm saying is that I'm basing it on the evidence that is before us. Of course, the web is complex. We are likely going to untangle it. So I'm not saying emphatically that it's not there. I'm saying on the version of the technical conversations we've had, and we're very explicit about the nature of the failure, whether these have got a relationship with quality of coal as a one of the manifestations of corruption. Very little to do with that. It's the design effects, and then we're addressing those design effects, if you like. And then we know that there was an amount of slurry got attached into the chimney, and then the total weight was over 2,000 tons of slurry that was undermining the structural integrity of the chimney, and that's why the 3 megawatt, the 3 units are out, 2,100. But on the evidence of what is before us, it's a technical conversation, and that's why I say
that's for Kusile. And I want to, sorry, I don't want to interject you, but I want to speak about what we saw driving here, because when we were leaving Kusile Power Station, we saw SANDF basically following the coal trucks, and when we arrived here at Kendal Power Station, we saw an SANDF truck, or whatever that thing is called, a Nyala, outside Kendal Power Station as well. So has that been brought to your attention? There's clearly, the fact that the SANDF was brought in to safeguard our power stations, there's clearly a syndicate or evidence of a syndicate if the SANDF has been brought in.
Yes, of course. I mean, there's an appreciation that there are issues that requires attention. We need to protect these strategic assets. The value of having an electricity minister and also engaging a conversation at a technical level. I'm asking technical questions, and they must be supported by evidence. I am saying to you, on the 4 power stations that we visited yesterday, Kriel, Duva, today, Kusile, and now we're at Kendal, there is nothing before me to substantiate that. But that there's a need for us to ensure that we minimize any opportunity for that occurring. Yes, let it be the case. We are going to do, we are left with 9 power stations, and I'm sure some of these things are going to come out of the wash. And let me qualify this by saying the following, that the unions, everywhere where we went, we had a preliminary engagement with the unions, and the union said to me, no, but Minister, there's a whole lot more we want to tell you once you come back to have a more substantive engagement with you. And hopefully in that conversation, I could be able to pick up other elements that the workers are seeing on the ground, because those are the people who put on the ground, they're the ones who breathe and live these power stations, and they have an appreciation of where these leakages are. And I'm sure out of that conversation, I'll be able to come back to you and say, this is what we have picked up. But remember, I'm not talking in aggregate terms. I am very specific. I should be able to substantiate everything that I say. If I tell you that it's as a result of the quality of coal, we must be able to track the source. I must be able to tell you what is the calorific value and how it compromises the burning rate, and how that compromises the efficiency of the system. But where I am, I don't have that, and I'm not suggesting to you that it doesn't exist. And it could be as a result of the work that has been done over a period of time, the penetration into this network. Perhaps they are on the retreat. But on the version of the technical conversations we're having with management, those things have not come out. Remember that the examination of where we are, I'm not asking the aggregate question, where is the energy availability factor? I'm asking the question, you say you have 6 units, what is the problem with these 6 units? Let's take, I think it's unit 3 here, it's operating at 50% of the availability factor, and they tell me that the problem is as a result of the need for us to reduce the emissions so that we remain within the licensing parameters. And once we take it out, we're able to retrofit, we'll bring it back, it's going to give us that 600 megawatts, will still remaining within the parameters, the environmental license parameters. So those are the questions that were answered. Those have nothing to do with, if you like, what's coming in, the input, if you like, the source, but it has to do with everything about the design of these components. And those are the conversations that we are having. We're at the granular level, we're at a very detailed level, we're asking and answering technical engineering questions that are very complex, and we have seen, we've taken an inordinate amount of time from one unit to the other, what are the resources that are required to get us up to speed. So we're not talking in aggregate terms. When we come out to the public and we commit to the numbers, I'll be knowing that I'm satisfied with the engineering, technical designs and the argument, the resources that are required. Where will these resources come from? I mean, one of the issues that gets to be raised here is that we are losing a number of qualified engineers. We invest in their education, in their training. When they get to the level where they have to now, we have to extract the maximum value out of them, they get to be poached. They are typically black young engineers that are paid better outside. So the conversation must be had inside. If we are to address this situation, how best do we retain these engineers to remain with us? We know, for an example here, that there's, if you like, a 50-50 split in terms of contractors and our own in-house people. So if we want the maximum return, the significant number, the critical mass of people must be within the organization. And what is the reason this is happening? Is because we are losing these skills in droves. So that has nothing to do with if you like, corruption. Have got to do with our retention and attraction strategy, the kinds of incentives that we are providing. And they don't necessarily have to be monetary all the time. So you need to rethink how best do you do that. So the point I'm making is that we are examining the question, if you like, at the microscopic level. So we're paying attention to detail. Like nuclear scientists, we are trying to understand what is this problem we are dealing with, so that we are able to give our country confidence, the economy and the investors, and we are able to create jobs.
Certainly. I mean, this is one of the biggest crises we face in this country. Just lastly, Minister, I want to ask you about the winter ahead. And I know you've said units are unreliable. We have problems at Kusile. You're still going to be going to a number of other power stations. But South Africans are looking at this and panicking, because we were told that we could even move to stage 8 load shedding in the winter. From your early and preliminary assessments, is that possible, or are we going to stay between 1 and 3 stage load shedding?
It's a fair question, Eddie, and I think the people are deserving of that answer. And for me to take responsibility in providing that answer, I have to substantiate it. I mean, for an example, if you go through a cold winter and then it is projected it's very cold and there's a excessive demand on the grid, we can go up to 37,000 megawatts, if you like. And we know that Eskom now, as we speak, can guarantee up to, now it has gone up about 28,000 megawatts. And of course, the other ones, you are going to close the gap through peaking plants like open cycle gas turbine, which guzzle a lot of diesel to bring down, if you like, the deficit, so that we remain within, if you like, what has come to be acceptable levels of load shedding. But we want to get to a point where we minimize that. So I don't have an absolute answer. I'm sorry to say that, but it will be irresponsible. But before we enter the winter, we'll be able to tell our people, the country, this is where we are. We must brace ourselves. The last point I want to make, we have done our own modeling, our own computation. It is in our hands. We know that households consume about 16% of installed capacity on the grid. During peak, it can go to 35%. And our modeling suggests that if we were to reduce that demand, especially our geysers, which consume at the household level on average 30% of our households, we can bring that down, if you like, the demand side by about anything between 3,000 to 4,500 megawatts. So essentially on the high end, you can bring down the levels of load shedding by 4 stages. So all I'm saying is that as we look at the generation, so this is the fleet of Eskom base load and the additional capacity that's come from the private sector. Of course, gas is going to be part of that conversation, but your quickest way of addressing that is to improve the energy availability factor of installed capacity. What we know is your generation, but there is something that you and I can do on the other side, and will be coming out to the general public. We need to work together to resolve this. But I am confident about the commitment of the Eskom employees. I must say that the narrative that these fellows are corrupt, I don't think that is correct. These people are committed to the resolution of the problem, and I'm not suggesting in any way that there are no bad apples, rotten apples. They will come out in the wash as we begin this exercise of ensuring that everyone puts his or her weight to the wheel. We are going to succeed in this effort, and we are appealing for patience. We know that it's running thin. People have been very tolerant, but we'll come back and say with some degree of assurance, being absolute with our numbers, that this is what it means entering into winter and beyond.
Okay, and then once you end load shedding, you're going to dance for us.
Yeah, I'm going to do the dancing.
Thank you so much for your time. We do appreciate it. That is the Minister of Electricity. And if you're wondering why I'm asking about his dance moves, he's trending on social media for him dancing, and he says that he will dance for us the minute we see the end of rolling blackouts. But as you can hear, Gareth, I think somebody has really been appointed in this position that understands the technical aspects of our power stations and the constant rolling blackouts that South Africans have been subjected to. Teddy's currently just showing you Kendall Power Station, and we often don't really see our power stations like this. Kusile was a completely different picture with only one unit actually working. And as you heard the minister saying, you know, he will be able to give us a full update in before winter as to what exactly is going to happen. And that magic number being 6,000 megawatts that they need to open up and make available so that they can really try and bring an end to the constant rolling blackouts.
Heidi Jokos, thank you very much indeed. Spending a fair amount of time with the Minister of Electricity as well. It was quite refreshing to hear. I'm not sure if you agree that the Minister had a very clear sense of technically what is happening on the ground inside the power stations. That's at least reassuring. Not sure what's happening with winter yet, but if the last couple of days are anything to go by, it looks like we might be on the right trajectory.